Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. I'm Otto Othman and this is World Today. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim and Vietnam's President Vo Van Thong have agreed to increase cooperation to address illegal fishing in Malaysian waters. After a bilateral meeting on the sidelines of the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting in San Francisco, Datuk Seri Anwar said he also extended an invitation to the Vietnamese president to undertake a state visit to Malaysia sometime next year. The Prime Minister said both leaders also discussed the issue with regard to South China Sea and agreed to fully adhere to the Declaration of Conduct on the South China Sea as well as call for an effective code of conduct of the South China Sea. Vietnam, on the other hand, also requested Malaysia to facilitate halal products from Vietnam and to cooperate on halal certification. Hanoi is Malaysia's 12th largest trading partner globally, and it is also the country's 4th largest trading partner in ASEAN, after Singapore, Indonesia and Thailand. In terms of investments, Malaysia is Vietnam's 10th largest investor after Singapore and Thailand. In a related development, Datuk Seri Anwar said Peruvian President Dina Boluarte has also requested Malaysia to consider opening an office in Peru to help facilitate halal certification of Peruvian products, as Malaysia's halal certification is recognized worldwide. Datuk Seri Anwar, who is also the finance minister, said Boluarte, who has invited him to visit Peru next year in conjunction with APEC 2024, which Peru is chairing. The Prime Minister said the Peruvian president also invited Malaysian businesses to visit and invest in Peru. In addition, Datuk Seri Anwar thanked the Peruvian authorities for rescuing and assisting 43 Malaysians who were victims of human trafficking and labor exploitation in Peru recently. He also reiterated Malaysia's commitment to continue training Peruvian officials under the Malaysian Technical Cooperation Program and to learn from each other's expertise. Fighting raged in Gaza on Thursday, more than 5 weeks after incessant bombing and ground offensives by Israel since 7th October, which vows to destroy Hamas. Now, authorities said more than 11,500 people, mostly civilians, have been killed in Gaza. The health ministry in the Hamas-run enclave said the Israeli army had destroyed the radiology service and bombed the burns and dialysis departments at Al-Shifa in a special forces raid at the hospital. The head of the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, Felipe Lazzarini, said a new communications blackout also hit the Gaza Strip. Lazzarini also warned of a deliberate attempt to strangle and paralyze the UNRWA operations. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Red Crescent said Israeli tanks were laying siege to Gaza's Al-Ahli hospital. The organization said medical teams were also unable to move and reach those who were injured. The United Nations Security Council yesterday managed to agree a resolution on the Israel-Hamas war after multiple attempts, calling for urgent and extended humanitarian pauses to allow aid to reach civilians in the besieged territory. The resolution also called on all parties to protect civilians, especially children. U.S. President Joe Biden has said he had made it clear to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that occupying Gaza would be, quote-unquote, a big mistake. He also said that the two-state solution was the only way to bring the end to the Israel-Palestinian conflict.
So but I can't tell. I'm not a fortune teller. I can't tell you how long it's going to last. But I can tell you I don't think it ultimately ends until there's a two-state solution. I made it clear to the Israelis I think it's a big mistake for them to think they're going to occupy Gaza and maintain Gaza. I don't think that works.
Speaking as the Israeli military continued its raid on Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital, Biden said he had also discussed with Israeli leaders the need to be incredibly careful in its actions at the hospital. The raid on the hospital has drawn condemnation from the United Nations, Jordan, and the Palestinian Authority. Under international humanitarian law, civilians at hospitals must be given ample time to flee, and any attack must be proportional to the military objective, putting the burden on Israel to show the hospital was a big enough military target to justify the siege against it. Meanwhile, the head of the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees said he feared for civil order in the Gaza Strip after it was hit with a new communications blackout on Thursday. The Palestinian telecom company Paltel confirmed the blackout, saying on X that all telecom services in Gaza Strip had gone out of service as all energy sources sustaining the network had been depleted and fuel was not allowed in. UNRWA Chief Felipe Lazzarini said he was worried that a communications blackout could heighten panic in the Gaza Strip and erode the last traces of public order. He added UNRWA staff would be hindered further in providing services in the Gaza Strip if the blackout remains, if they cannot communicate with one another. Lazzarini also said he worried there was a deliberate attempt underway to paralyze his agency's operations in the besieged territory. He noted that the organization had pleaded for weeks for access to fuel, which on Wednesday was carried into Gaza for the first time since the start of the Israeli incessant bombardments on the Strip. However, Lazzarini said that fuel, 24,000 liters of diesel fuel for UN aid distribution trucks, is nowhere near what Gazans need to survive. Hamas denied that it operated out of medical facilities in Gaza as Israeli forces continued their operation at Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City. Its representative, Osama Hamdan, during a press conference in Beirut, said there is no center or control room for Hamas in Al-Shifa as they avoided hospitals altogether. Hamdan also dismissed Israeli information of Hamas operations at Al-Shifa and other hospitals in Gaza as lies and condemned U.S. support for them as silly and stupid. The group also rejected Israeli claims it uncovered weapons during hours-long raid at Al-Shifa Hospital, largest medical complex in the Gaza Strip. Palestinian Foreign Ministry had warned against Israel's misleading fabrications about Al-Shifa, where thousands of civilians are taking shelter from the regime's incessant bombardments. Southeast Asia's regional bloc, ASEAN, will not interfere in the internal problems of any one country. Speaking at an ASEAN Defense Ministers meeting in Jakarta, Indonesian Defense Minister Prabowo Subianto added that the bloc is pushing for the Myanmar leadership to find a non-violent resolution to its crisis. ASEAN defense ministers earlier called for a durable solution in Myanmar as conflicts are deepening there. Prabowo did not mention any specific issues in the speech, but he named the South China Sea, the Korean Peninsula and Myanmar as the hot spots that can destabilize the region. Myanmar's generals have been barred from high-level meetings of the 10-member ASEAN since they seized power in a 2021 coup and unleashed violence on those who challenged their takeover. Earlier, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said he is deeply concerned about the widening conflict in Myanmar sparked by an offensive launched by ethnic minority armed groups last month. Guterres said the expansion of conflict across the vast swaths of the country has displaced more than 200,000 people. Coming up, federal court convicts a man for attacking former U.S. Speaker husband. Stay tuned.
Rakyat Malaysia memang hebat kerana tegas pertahankan hak Palestin. Memang kita jauh dari dunia Arab. Kita jauh dari dunia Palestin. Kita jauh dari Gaza. Tetapi setiap detik berlaku menyentuh hati nurani kita. Kerana apa? Karena kita tahu dan faham arti manusiawi, arti ihsan, arti kemanusiaan, dan lebih penting, arti keadilan melawan kezaliman Israel.
A federal jury on Thursday convicted a right-wing conspiracy theorist of a hammer attack on a husband of former U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. David Wayne DePape, 43, broke into the Pelosi's San Francisco home and struck Paul Pelosi over the head with a hammer in the early morning hours of 28 October 2022, while Nancy Pelosi, a Democrat, was still Speaker and away in Washington. A spokesperson for the U.S. Attorney's Office said the San Francisco jury found DePape guilty of attempted kidnapping and assault of an immediate family member of a federal official. The crimes carry potential prison sentences of 20 years and 30 years, respectively, under federal sentencing guidelines. DePape also faces further charges including attempted murder in California state court that carry a potential sentence of 13 years to life in prison. DePape told the jury he wanted to kidnap Nancy Pelosi, interrogate her, and break her kneecaps if found her to be lying. But after breaking into the home, he instead found her husband, then aged 82, asleep in his bed. DePape said the attack was a reaction to his original plan going awry. Now, people took to the streets of Madrid on Thursday to protest after Spain's parliament voted to make Pedro Sánchez prime minister for another term. Pedro Sánchez won the backing of Spain's parliament on Thursday for another term as prime minister, with the country divided over his amnesty for Catalan separatists in exchange for their crucial support in a confidence vote. Sánchez, in office since 2018, won the backing of 179 lawmakers, 3 more than the absolute majority of 176 in the 350-seat parliament after an often tense 2-day debate. His Socialist Party finished second in an inclusive July general election, but he reached deals with several small parties to back re-establishing his minority coalition government with hard-left party Summer. To win the support of 2 Catalan separatist parties, he urged to grant an amnesty to hundreds of people facing legal action for their role in Catalonia's separatist movement over the past decade. Among the beneficiaries is Carles Puigdemont. He headed the regional government of Catalonia when it staged a failed secession bid in 2017. Puigdemont organized a referendum that was banned by the central government, followed by a short-lived declaration of independence that sparked Spain's worst political crisis in decades. He fled to Belgium to avoid prosecution. An amnesty would allow him to return to Spain, while many Spaniards consider him an enemy of the state. Sánchez, who has made a career out of making political gambles, defended the amnesty during the parliamentary debate, arguing it was constitutional and needed to heal the wounds opened by the wealthy northeastern region's independence push. Niger's military junta chief, who came to power in a July coup, officially set up an anti-corruption commission and state court on Thursday. Now, members of the court and commission, 2 new bodies, swore an oath in front of new strongman General Abdurrahmani Tiani in his first public appearance since leading the 26 July ousting of democratically elected President Mohamed Bazoum. Military chiefs, government members, traditional chiefs, religious figures and foreign diplomats attended the inaugurations, which was broadcast live by state TV in the capital Niamey. The new state court replaces the Court of Cassation and State Council, which were dissolved after the coup according to the order setting out public orders during a transition period leading to elections. For now, the junta has demanded up to a 3-year transition back to civilian rule, but no date has been fixed for elections. The Anti-Corruption Commission's main role will be recovering all illegal acquired and misappropriated public property. It is made up of judges, army, and police officers and representatives of civil society. Tiani has promised to hold a national dialogue, which will help determine how long the transitional period will continue. Bazoum has been held at his residence in the heart of the residential palace since his toppling. Niger has been subject to heavy economic sanctions by the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, since the coup, driving up inflation and leading to shortages of some products, including medicines. A Mexican photojournalist was shot and killed Thursday in Ciudad Juarez, bordering the United States, in the latest spasm of violence against members of the Mexico's media. Ismael Villagomez Tapia, a photographer from El Heraldo de Juarez newspaper who also gave lifts to people through a rideshare platform, was found shot in the face in a residential area of the city, which has been plagued by violence linked to organized crime. Expert analysis show that a bullet entered through his eye. Tapia's body was found in a vehicle that he used for rideshare work. Salas said authorities were seeking access to the app used by Tapia to study the trips he made and especially the last person to whom he gave a ride, and stressed it remained possible that Tapia's journalism work was a motive for the crime. El Heraldo's editor Jose Ramos Ortiz said there had been no signs that Tapia was under threat. He added, however, that only Tapia's mobile phone was missing and that the victim's wallet was not taken, apparently ruling out a possible robbery. Tapia mostly covered urban issues such as accidents or traffic on the U.S. border bridges, as well as the story of migrants arriving in Ciudad Juarez with the aim of crossing into the United States. According to non-governmental group Reporters Without Borders, 5 journalists have been killed in Mexico since the beginning of the year, and more than 150 have been murdered nationwide since 2000, while 28 remain missing. A fierce storm packing hurricane, fierce winds, gusts dumped more than a foot or 30.5 centimeters of rain on parts of South Florida on Thursday, flooding homes and streets, downing power lines and trees, and leaving tens of thousands of homes and businesses without power. According to the U.S. National Service, the storm dropped almost 14 inches of rain from Key Largo to Fort Lauderdale, while wind gusts topped at 136 kilometers per hour. More than 86,000 homes and businesses remained without electricity early on Thursday afternoon across Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties as the storm crawled north. A flood watch still remained in effect for Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties on Thursday. David Roth, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, said the storms were driven by a low-pressure system and warm waters in the Gulf, colluding the cooler air and water on the state's Atlantic coast. The severity and frequency of major storms affecting the U.S. in recent years is linked to global warming. This year's Atlantic hurricane season, which officially runs from June 1st to 30th November, has been another in a string with above-average activity. Well, people who were evacuated from their homes in Grindavik in southwestern Iceland dreaded the future as the risk of volcanic eruption remains high. Nearly 4,000 people from the fishing town were evacuated on Saturday after seismic activity and underground lava flows intensified on the Reykjanes Peninsula near the capital, Reykjavik, over the weekend. Since then, earthquakes have continued and the risk of an eruption remains high. The town has been deserted beyond the odd car, and a handful of locals who have been allowed to go back there to collect their most important belongings. People wanting to go to the town to pick up belongings have to queue at a roadblock. Some residents had to be driven into Grindavik in emergency responders' vehicles, while most inhabitants were allowed to drive into Grindavik in their private cars, accompanied by emergency personnel. Long and deep cracks have appeared in roads in the town center, leaving its main street impassable. The United Arab Emirates inaugurated on Thursday one of the world's biggest solar plants, 2 weeks before the oil-rich Gulf state hosts UN climate talks. The Al Dhafra plant, south of the capital, Abu Dhabi, stretches over 21 square kilometers of desert, an area about 1/5 the size of Paris. Its rows of photovoltaic panels rotate to follow the sun and are kept clear of sand and dust by robotic cleaning modules. The UAE is on a drive to triple its renewable energy over the next 7 years as it attempts to achieve net zero in domestic carbon emissions by 2050. The argument over phasing out fossil fuels, the main driver of wealth in the Gulf, against targeting their emissions is expected to be key battling at the COP28 climate talks in Dubai from 30th November. The plant will save CO2 emissions to the tune of over 2 million tons a year, which is equivalent to 800,000 cars off the road. Al Dhafra, about 30 kilometers from Abu Dhabi, has a production capacity of 2 gigawatts and will provide carbon-free energy to 160,000 homes. Up next in sports, Harimau Malaya roars in Bukit Jalil last night. Harimau Malaya made a rousing start to their 2026 World Cup 2027 Asian Cup qualifying campaign by upstaging Kyrgyzstan 4-3 in their Group D opener at the National Stadium Bukit Jalil last night. World number 137 Malaysia started as the underdogs against the White Falcons, who are ranked 40 places above them. But that did little to intimidate Kim Pan-gon's men, who gave the 17,142 fans much to cheer as early as the 7th minute, when Dion Cools gave Malaysia an early lead with a header. But Malaysia conceded a goal in the 42nd minute after custodian Shihan Hazmi barely stopped 2 Kyrgyz shots before he was beaten by Kairat Kirgalbek. Before the halftime break, Kyrgyzstan took a 2-1 lead when Ernest Batirkanov shot into the bottom right corner of the goal. The start of the second half saw the Central Asian team extend their lead to 3-1 with a goal by Merkai, who had come in for the Marialev Suinbet in the 45th minute. But Harimau Malaya kept fighting and were rewarded when winger Arif Aiman Hanapi pressured Kyrgyzstan's Christian Brausman. This led to the latter scoring an own goal in the 72nd minute. And defender Cools put Malaysia back in the game with a 77th minute leveller. Malaysia then scripted an amazing ending to their roller coaster match with a stoppage time winner from Faisal Halim. During a post-match press conference, national head coach Kim Pan-gon feels overconfidence almost punished Malaysia against Kyrgyzstan last night. The South Korean coach said confidence was crucial for every match, but it was also important to respect the opponents, especially when playing against higher-ranked teams. Pan-gon said letting slip a 1-0 lead to head into the breakdown 1-2 had forced him to remind the team of the matter, and was relieved when his players managed to change their mentality and record a superb comeback victory.
Then I don't know, maybe sometimes second half time I share with players that even before start we share with the players that we must know who we are. We are not top level, then we must be treat them, we must be respect, we must be humble. I like confidence, but shouldn't be overconfidence or shouldn't be arrogant. We must be humbly respect ranking 97 approach to the game, humbly. So to me, good lesson for us. It was amazing game, to me amazing game.
Malaysia will play Taiwan in Taipei on 21st November before resuming their campaign next year against Oman, away on 21st March and home on 26th March, followed by an away match against Kyrgyzstan on June 6th and at home against Taiwan on 11th June. Meanwhile, Kyrgyzstan coach Stefan Tarkovic was furious with the defeat as he felt his side lost focus following a 3-1 lead.
He had so many bodies forward.
But I can say that I am very angry and disappointed about the result. We scored 3 goals and we created many other chances to manage the game to the win. But by our big mistake in the defense, we received 4 goals, which is too much. So take 3 goals and don't take any point.
Novak Djokovic overcame Hukac in 3 sets to keep his hopes alive at the 2023 ATP Finals, but he is not guaranteed a place in the knockout stage in Turin. The world number 1 prevailed 7-6, 4-6, 6-1 against the world number 9 in his final round-robin match in the green group on Thursday. Djokovic's drop set against Hukac, who replaced the injured Stefanos Tsitsipas in Turin, confirmed Jannik Sinner's spot in the semi-finals, making him the first Italian in the tournament's 54-year history to reach that stage. Djokovic could have all but sealed his spot in the last 4 if he had beaten Hukac in straight sets and looked on course to do so after taking the opener on the tie-break. The 36-year-old, though, played a poor game to lose his serve to Love at 2-2 in the second set, with a double fault at Love 40 proving costly. The big serving pole then saved 2 break points with aces at 4-3, 15-40 before taking the set to level the contest. Playing with nothing to lose, Poland's Hukac was a force to reckon with on serve, firing 24 aces in the match. But he ran out of steam in the final set as Djokovic converted break points for the first time in the contest. The stars of Formula One are doing their best to stay focused on the weekend's Las Vegas Grand Prix, despite the cacophony of sights and sounds, as the city pulls out all the stops for the return of the sport after more than 4 decades. Now, the opening ceremony saw music stars such as Kylie Minogue and their 30 Seconds to Mars play at the Nevada circuit, welcoming the start of the weekend that promises to be just as much about the occasion as the race itself. While the championships have already been wrapped up by Max Verstappen, the laser-focused Dutchman is certain to be locked on to new records within his reach. Victory in Vegas would be the 53rd of his career, equaling the tally of 4 times world champion Sebastian Vettel and lifting him to join 3rd in all-time win lists. It would also be a record extending 18th from a single campaign, with 1 more race to come in Abu Dhabi the following weekend. Qualifying starts at midnight with the race at 10 p.m. local time on Saturday. The latest start in Formula One history and one designed to show off the neon light city skyline to maximum effect. The 17-corner anti-clockwise track is the second longest on the current calendar. A 6.2-kilometer blast past local landmarks with a 1.9-kilometer flat-out straight and a mix of old and new asphalt. And that concludes our bulletin this afternoon. In our top story, Malaysia and Vietnam agreed to work together in tackling illegal fishing issue. Do join us again tonight at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and saluran Berita RTM for more news. I'm Otto Othman. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.